Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Our first story is titled, Parents Disowned Me for Marrying the Love of My Life. I chose to marry the love of my life, Bruce, against my parents' wishes. I'm Anissa, and this is the story of how my wedding day became both the happiest and most heartbreaking day of my life. Bruce and I met in college. We were both pre-med students, burning the midnight oil in the library, drowning in textbooks and caffeine. One night, bleary-eyed from studying, I accidentally knocked over my tower of medical journals. Bruce, sitting nearby, rushed to help me pick them up. Our eyes met. We shared a tired laugh, and that was it. From that moment on, we were inseparable. We dated all through undergrad and into medical school. Bruce was brilliant, compassionate, and made me laugh like no one else could. We pushed each other to be better, supporting each other through the grueling years of med school and residency. By the time we finished our residencies, I knew without a doubt that Bruce was the person I wanted to spend my life with. There was just one problem: my parents. You see, I come from a traditional Indian family. My parents had moved to the U.S. before I was born, but they clung tightly to their cultural beliefs and expectations. And those expectations definitely did not include me marrying a white American man. From the moment I introduced Bruce to my parents, it was clear they disapproved. They were civil but cold. My mom barely spoke 2 words to Bruce, while my dad grilled him relentlessly about his family background and career prospects. After that disastrous first meeting, my parents made their feelings crystal clear. "Anissa, you cannot be serious about this boy," my mother said, her voice sharp with disappointment. "What will people say? Have you thought about your future children? They'll have no culture, no roots." My father was even more blunt. "We did not sacrifice everything to come to this country just for you to throw away your heritage," he said sternly. "There are plenty of nice Indian boys we could introduce you to, doctors like him, or lawyers or engineers. Why must you choose an outsider?" I tried to reason with them. I explained how much Bruce meant to me, how compatible we were, how he supported my career and made me happy, but they refused to listen. "You're young," my father said dismissively. "This is just a phase. You'll grow out of it and realize we know what's best for you." But it wasn't a phase. As the years went by and my relationship with Bruce deepened, my parents' opposition only grew stronger. They tried everything to break us up, setting me up on dates with suitable men, guilt-tripping me about family obligations, even threatening to cut me off financially. Though I was already financially independent by then, the situation came to a head when Bruce proposed. It was a perfect romantic moment. He took me back to the same library where we first met and got down on one knee surrounded by medical textbooks. I was overjoyed and said yes without hesitation. But my happiness was short-lived. When I called my parents to share the news, their reaction was ice cold. "If you go through with this, you are no longer a daughter," my father said, his voice hard and final. "We will not attend this wedding. We will not acknowledge this marriage. You will be dead to us." I was stunned. I knew they disapproved, but I never imagined they would go this far. "Dad, please," I begged, tears streaming down my face. "Don't do this. I love you and Mom. I don't want to lose you. But I love Bruce too. Why can't you accept that?" But my pleas fell on deaf ears. My mother got on the phone sobbing. "Anissa, why are you doing this to us after everything we've done for you? If you marry this man, don't ever try to contact us again." The line went dead. I collapsed into Bruce's arms, heartbroken and conflicted. Part of me wanted to call off the engagement to keep my family, but a larger part knew I couldn't live a lie or give up the person I loved most in the world. "We don't have to do this," Bruce said softly, stroking my hair. "I don't want to come between you and your family. Maybe we can wait. Give them more time to come around." I shook my head, wiping away my tears. No, I said firmly. I love you and I want to marry you. My parents are making a choice here too. I have to believe that someday they'll come around, and if they don't, well, we'll build our own family. The months leading up to the wedding were tense. I kept hoping my parents would change their minds, that they'd realize how much they were hurting me and relent. I sent them invitation after invitation. I left voicemails and emails begging them to reconsider. I even went to their house only to find they had changed the locks. My extended family was divided. Some supported me, understanding that times were changing, and love was love. Others sided with my parents, scolding me for abandoning my culture and breaking my parents' hearts. I lost touch with cousins I've been close to my whole life. Family, friends who had known me since childhood now acted like I didn't exist. It was painful, but Bruce was my rock through it all. He held me when I cried, listened patiently when I needed to vent, and never once made me feel guilty for the chaos my decision had caused. His family welcomed me with open arms, doing their best to fill the void left by my own parents' rejection. Finally, our wedding day arrived. It was a beautiful ceremony, blending some of my Indian tradition with Bruce's American ones. I wore a white gown for the ceremony, then changed into a red and gold lehenga for the reception. We had both a Christian ceremony and a Hindu one, honoring both our backgrounds. But as I walked down the aisle, my heart ached seeing the empty seats where my parents should have been. I had left 2 seats in the front row empty, still hoping against hope that they might show up at the last minute. They didn't. My dad wasn't there to walk me down the aisle, so I walked alone. There was no mother-daughter dance at the reception, no tearful parental speeches celebrating our union. When it came time for the father-daughter dance, I almost broke down, but then Bruce's dad stepped in. "May I have this dance?" he asked gently, holding out his hand. "I know I'm a poor substitute, but I hope you know that you're already a daughter to me." I burst into tears, nodding gratefully as he led me onto the dance floor. It wasn't the same, but his kindness meant the world to me in that moment. Despite the sadness underlying the day, marrying Bruce was still the happiest moment of my life. When we said our vows looking into each other's eyes, I knew I had made the right choice. The love and joy radiating between us was palpable. Our honeymoon was magical. 2 weeks exploring the Greek islands, basking in newlywed bliss. But returning home brought me crashing back to reality. I tried calling my parents one more time, hoping that now that the wedding was over, they might be willing to reconcile. The number had been disconnected. They had changed their phone number without telling me. It was a clear message that they meant what they said. I was no longer their daughter. The next few years were a roller coaster. Bruce and I threw ourselves into our medical careers, working long hours at the hospital. Our relationship remained strong, but the void left by my family's absence was always there, an invisible weight I carried with me. I missed them terribly, especially during holidays and milestones. When Bruce and I bought our first home, I yearned to show my mom around, to get her advice on decorating. When I made partner at my medical practice, I ached to see the pride in my father's eyes. Every time I saw parents with their adult children at restaurants, in parks, at the hospital, it was like a knife to my heart. I'd see Indian families and feel a pang of loss for my culture and community. I tried to fill the void in other ways. I joined Indian cultural groups, determined not to lose touch with my heritage. I made new friends, building a chosen family of sorts. Bruce and I became closer than ever, our shared pain bonding us even more tightly. But the pain never fully went away. How could it when the people who had given me life, who had raised and loved me for so many years, now acted as if I didn't exist? 3 years into our marriage, I found out I was pregnant. It was a joyful surprise. We'd been trying for a while but hadn't had any luck. As happy as I was, the news also brought a fresh wave of sadness. This should have been a moment to share with my parents. They should have been thrilled to become grandparents. I decided to make one last attempt at reconciliation. I wrote them a long letter, pouring my heart out. I told them about the pregnancy, described how happy and successful Bruce and I were, and begged them to be a part of their grandchild's life. Weeks passed with no response. I had almost given up hope when a letter arrived, addressed in my mother's familiar handwriting. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a short, coldly formal note. Congratulations on your news. We hope you and the child are healthy. However, our position has not changed. Please do not contact us again. Enclosed was a check for $10,000. A baby gift, I suppose, but it felt more like a final payoff, a way of soothing their conscience while maintaining their distance. I ripped up the check and broke down sobbing. Bruce found me like that, curled up on the floor, clutching the letter. He read it, his face darkening with anger. "How can they be so cruel?" he said, gathering me in his arms. "I'm so sorry, Anissa. You deserve so much better." I cried myself to sleep that night, mourning the grandparents my child would never know. As my pregnancy progressed, the absence of my mother felt especially acute. There was no one to share old wives' tales about determining the baby's gender, no one to teach me the special prenatal recipes my mother had always talked about making for me when I had children, no one to help me prepare for motherhood the way only a mother can. But life went on. Our son, Arjun, was born on a crisp autumn morning. The moment I held him in my arms, I felt a love so fierce and protective, it took my breath away. Looking at his perfect little face, a beautiful blend of Bruce and me, I vowed that he would always know how loved and wanted he was. "He's perfect," Bruce whispered, tears in his eyes as he cradled our son. "Thank you for making me a father." As challenging as new parenthood was, those first few months with Arjun were magical, but the joy was always tinged with sadness. Every milestone, his first smile, his first laugh, his first steps, made me think of my parents and how much they were missing. I sent them pictures of Arjun a few times, but never got any response. As he grew older, he started asking questions that broke my heart. "Mom, how come I only have one grandma and grandpa?" he asked innocently one day, referring to Bruce's parents. "My friend has two each." I struggled to explain in a way his young mind could understand. "Well, sweetie, sometimes grown-ups disagree and decide not to talk to each other anymore. My mom and dad and I had a big disagreement a long time ago." "What did you disagree about?" he pressed. I sighed, fighting back tears. "They didn't want me to marry your dad." Arjun's little brow furrowed in confusion. "But why? Dad's the best." I had to laugh at Dad, hugging him tight. "You're right. He is the best. Sometimes people have trouble accepting things that are different from what they're used to. But you know what? I wouldn't change a thing because marrying your dad gave me you." As Arjun got older, these conversations became more frequent and more difficult. He was a perceptive child, keenly aware of the family dynamics of his friends and classmates. He noticed the absence of my family in our lives, the fact that we never visited my childhood home or celebrated Indian holidays the way some of his Indian American classmates did. It broke my heart to see him struggling to understand his identity and family history. Bruce and I did our best to expose him to both his Indian and American heritage. We celebrated Diwali and Christmas with equal enthusiasm. I taught him to cook Indian food and enrolled him in Hindi classes. We took him to India on vacation to connect with his roots. But there was only so much we could do to fill the void left by my parents' absence. Arjun's question became more pointed as he grew older. "Do your parents hate me?" he asked me one day when he was about 10, his voice small and hurt. "Is it because I'm only half Indian?" "Oh, sweetheart, no," I said, pulling him into a hug. "They've never even met you. This isn't about you at all. It's about choices I made long before you were born." I try to explain the situation in more detail about cultural expectations and generational divides. Arjun listened solemnly. "I think they're wrong," he said finally. "You're the best mom ever. They're missing out." His words warmed my heart, but I could see the hurt and confusion in his eyes. It killed me that my parents' choices were now affecting my son. As the years passed, I had to accept that my parents were unlikely to ever come around. I focused on building a happy life with Bruce and Arjun, cherishing the family we had created. We had a tight-knit group of friends who became like extended family. Bruce's parents doted on Arjun, giving him all the grandparental love they could. But the pain never fully went away. Every now and then, something would trigger a fresh wave of grief. A Bollywood movie featuring a big Indian family, the sound of a woman speaking Hindi in the grocery store, the sight of a grandfather teaching his grandchild to fly a kite in the park. I threw myself into my medical career, becoming a respected pediatrician. I like to think that by helping other children, I was in some small way making up for the love my parents were withholding from their own grandson. As Arjun entered his teenage years, our lives settled into a new rhythm. The acute pain of my family's absence had dulled into a persistent ache, always there but no longer overwhelming. We had created our own traditions, our own version of family that was beautiful in its own right. When Arjun turned 16, we decided to take a family trip to India. It was partly to connect him with his heritage, but also a journey of healing for me. I wanted to revisit the country of my ancestors, not as a place of loss, but as a place of discovery. The trip was transformative. We explored bustling markets in Delhi, marveled at the Taj Mahal, and relaxed on the beaches of Goa. Arjun soaked up the culture, asking endless questions about everything from ancient temples to modern Bollywood. Returning home from that trip, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years. I realized that while the loss of my parents and extended family would always be a part of me, it didn't define me. I had honored my heritage while also forging my own path, and I had raised a son who understood and appreciated both sides of his identity. As Arjun prepared for college, I found myself reflecting on the journey of the past few decades. The pain of estrangement had shaped me, but it hadn't broken me. Instead, it had made me more compassionate, more determined to create a loving family of my own. Bruce and I celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary with a small party, surrounded by friends who had become family. As I looked around at the faces of those who had stood by us through everything, I felt immensely grateful. "I wish things had been different with your family," Bruce said quietly as we slow danced. "But I want you to know that I've never regretted our decision for a moment. You and Arjun are my whole world." I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling the familiar comfort of his embrace. "I don't regret it either," I replied. "It's been hard, but we've built something beautiful together." The next chapter of our lives brought new challenges and joys. Arjun went off to college to study engineering, making us proud with his achievements. Bruce and I adjusted to being empty nesters, rediscovering each other as a couple after so many years focused on parenting. I continued my work as a pediatrician, finding fulfillment in helping children and their families. I also started volunteering with an organization that supported cross-cultural couples, hoping to help others navigate the challenges I had faced. There were still moments of sadness. When Arjun graduated from college, I couldn't help but think how proud my parents would have been of their grandson. When Bruce and I celebrated our 25th anniversary, I wished my mother could have been there to see the life her daughter had built. But these moments no longer overwhelmed me. I had learned to honor my feelings of loss while also appreciating the fullness of my life. My parents' rejection had left a wound that would never fully heal. The estrangement from my extended family had deprived me and Arjun of relationships and experiences we could never recover. But in facing that loss, I had discovered strengths I never knew I had. I had learned the true meaning of family, not just blood, but the bonds we choose to honor and nurture every day. My parents were still alive, according to the occasional bits of information that filtered through to me via distant relatives. They had never reached out, never shown any interest in reconciliation. I had long since stopped expecting them to. But I had made peace with that. The family I had lost would always be a part of my story, but it was no longer the defining chapter. Instead, my life was defined by the love I had found, the family I had created, and the bridges I had built between cultures. The path I had chosen had been difficult, but it had led me here to a life full of love, purpose, and belonging, and for that, I was profoundly grateful. Here are my thoughts about this story. So, this story about Anissa, right? Man, it's like a punch to the gut, but in a good way, if that makes any sense. I mean, here's this woman who basically had to choose between the family she was born into and the family she wanted to create. Talk about being stuck between a rock and a hard place, am I right? What really got me was how real it felt. Like, I'm not Indian American or anything, but I could feel Anissa's pain, her struggle, her determination. It's like, those moments when you're reading a book or watching a movie and you forget you're not actually there. That's how this story felt to me. The part that really messed me up was when Anissa and her family went to India. I mean, you can imagine going back to your parents' homeland, knowing they're probably still there somewhere, but you can't see them. That's some heavy stuff. But here's the thing that I keep thinking about. Anissa never got that Hollywood ending. Her parents never came around, never had that big dramatic reconciliation scene. And somehow that makes the story even more powerful because life doesn't always give us neat, tidy endings. Sometimes we have to find our own closure, our own peace. And Anissa did that, didn't she? She built this amazing life, raised a great kid, had a solid marriage, kicked ass in her career. She took all that pain and turned it into something beautiful. I gotta admit, there were moments when I was reading this that I wanted to reach through the pages and shake some sense into Anissa's parents. Like, come on, people. Your daughter is awesome. Your grandson is awesome. Get over yourselves already. But then I realized that's not the point of the story. It's not about them changing their minds. It's about Anissa changing her perspective. You know what really struck me? The way Anissa kept choosing love over and over again. She chose love when she married Bruce, when she raised Arjun, when she built friendships, when she helped other couples facing similar challenges. Even when she wrote her memoir, she was choosing love by sharing her story to help others. Now, I'm not gonna lie, part of me was hoping for that last-minute reconciliation. Like Anissa's parents show up at her birthday party. There are tears and hugs all around, cue the violins. But instead, Anissa found her happy ending without that. She found peace and contentment on her own terms. So yeah, this story, it's gonna stick with me for a while. It's got me thinking about my own family, my own choices, the bridges I've built and the ones I might need to build.
And now, guys, we will move on to the second story of the video. Please like the video if you have enjoyed it so far. The story starts like this.
Parents tried to control my life, leaving me alone and isolated. I never thought I'd be sitting here at 25 years old, completely alone and cut off from everyone I once knew. But looking back, I can see how my parents' suffocating control led me down to this isolating path. Growing up, my parents micromanaged every aspect of my life. They chose my clothes, my hobbies, my friends. Everything had to meet their approval. As a kid, I didn't know any different. I thought all parents were like mine, obsessed with shaping their child into their idealized vision. My mom picked out my outfits every morning until I was 13. Even then, she'd inspect what I was wearing before I left for school and often make me change. "That shirt is too revealing," she'd say about a perfectly normal t-shirt. Or, "Those jeans make you look chunky," or something more flattering. My dad was in charge of my extracurricular activities and academic path. He decided I would play violin, join the debate team, and take all the advanced classes. When I expressed interest in trying out for the school play, he shut it down immediately. "Acting is for airheads," he said dismissively. "Focus on activities that will get you into a good college." I wasn't allowed to go to sleepovers or hang out with my friends outside of school. My parents insisted on meeting and approving any potential friends. More often than not, they found some flaw or reason the other kid was a bad influence. As a result, I had very few friends growing up. Dating was completely forbidden until college. Even then, my parents expected full reports on any guy I went out with. They grilled me for details and then invariably find something to criticize. "He's not ambitious enough. His family isn't successful. You can do better." I was so used to this level of control that I didn't even think to question it. I believed my parents when they said it was all for my own good, that they just wanted what was best for me. It wasn't until I got to college that I started to realize how abnormal my upbringing had been. My roommate freshman year was shocked when I called my mom to ask permission before going to a party. "Dude, you're 18, she said. "You don't need your parents' approval for every little thing." I tried to explain that this was just how my family operated, but she wasn't having it. "That's not normal or healthy," she insisted. "Your parents are control freaks." Her words stuck with me, planting the first seeds of doubt. As I observed how my classmates interacted with their families, I began to see the stark differences. Other students made their own choices about classes and majors. They went out on weekends without checking in constantly. They dated freely without parental interference. Meanwhile, I was still calling home every day to report my activities to get approval for my decisions. My parents had insisted I live in the dorms rather than an apartment so they could keep better track of me. They even gotten access to my class schedule and grades, supposedly to help me stay on track. She and my other new friends encouraged me to set some boundaries. "You're an adult now," they'd say. "It's time to start making your own choices." Easier said than done. Every time I tried to assert even a little independence, my parents would guilt trip me or threaten to cut me off financially. I knew they were paying for my education, so I felt trapped. Things came to a head my junior year when I met my first boyfriend. He was sweet, funny, and treated me with genuine respect, something I wasn't used to from guys. For the first time, I started to envision a future that didn't revolve around my parents' plans for me. When I told my parents about him, they immediately disapproved. "He's not good enough for you," my mom said, "and his major is useless. He'll never be able to provide for a family." I tried to stand up for him. "He makes me happy," I said. "Isn't that what matters?" My dad scoffed. "You're too young to know what will make you happy long term. We know what's best for you." They demanded I break up with him immediately. When I refused, they escalated to threats. "If you insist on seeing this boy, we'll stop paying your tuition," my dad said. "Is he really worth throwing away your future?" I was torn. I cared about him, but I was terrified of losing my parents' support. In the end, my fear won out. I broke things off with my then boyfriend, my heart breaking as I did so. After that, I withdrew from my friends. I was too ashamed to face them. After caving to my parents yet again, I threw myself into my studies, determined to at least make my parents proud academically. By the time I graduated, I was more isolated than ever. I had no close friends and no real support system outside my family. My parents were thrilled. They've gotten exactly what they wanted. They had my whole life mapped out. I'd go to law school, become a high-powered attorney, marry a man of their choosing, and give them perfect grandchildren. My own desires didn't factor in at all. For a while, I went along with it. I was accepted to a prestigious law school and dove into my studies. But I was miserable. The work didn't interest me at all. I'd only chosen law because my parents insisted it was the best path. About halfway through my first semester, I hit a breaking point. I realized I couldn't keep living my life to please my parents. I needed to start making my own choices, even if it meant losing their support. I called my parents and told them I was dropping out of law school. "I'm not happy," I said. "This isn't the right path for me." They were furious. My dad yelled that I was throwing my life away. My mom cried and said I was breaking her heart. They both insisted I was making a huge mistake. "If you drop out, don't expect any more help from us," my dad threatened. "We won't support you ruining your future." I took a deep breath. "I understand," I said, "but this is my decision to make." True to their word, my parents cut me off completely after that. No more financial support, no more contact at all. They told our extended family I had some kind of breakdown and to avoid enabling me. Suddenly, I was completely on my own for the first time in my life. It was terrifying, but also liberating. For once, I could make my own choices without worrying about my parents' approval. I got a job waiting tables and found a tiny studio apartment I could barely afford. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I started exploring interests I've never been allowed to pursue before. Art classes, rock climbing, even community theater. But years of isolation had taken their toll. I struggled to connect with people or form close friendships. I had no practice with normal social interactions. Every conversation felt awkward and forced. Dating was even worse. I had no idea how to flirt or what a healthy relationship looked like. The few dates I went on were disasters. One guy told me I came across as weirdly intense. Another said I seemed desperate and clingy. I was lonely, but I didn't know how to fix it. My childhood of constant monitoring had left me with no real social skills. I'd never learned how to just relax and be myself around others. Work was a struggle too. I had no frame of reference or typical workplace norms and expectations. Simple things like small talk with coworkers or speaking up in meetings were bafflingly difficult. My boss pulled me aside more than once to say I seemed standoffish and needed to be more of a team player. About a year after cutting ties with my parents, I hit a new low. I was sitting alone in my dingy apartment on a Friday night, scrolling through social media and seeing everyone else out having fun with friends and partners. I felt so isolated and left behind. In a moment of weakness, I called my parents. As soon as my mom answered, I burst into tears. "I'm sorry," I sobbed. "You were right. I can't do this on my own. Please help me." There was a long pause. Then my mom said coldly, "You've made your choice. You wanted independence. Now deal with the consequences." She hung up without another word. That rejection was devastating, but also oddly freeing. I realized I truly was on my own now, for better or worse. If I wanted things to improve, I'd have to make it happen myself. The next day, I signed up for therapy. I knew I needed help processing my dysfunctional upbringing and learning basic social skills. It wasn't easy opening up about my past, but my therapist was patient and understanding. "What your parents did was a form of emotional abuse," she told me gently. "It's natural that you're struggling now, but with time and work, you can unlearn those harmful patterns and build a healthier life." Therapy was hard work, but so valuable. I started to recognize how my parents' controlling behavior had warped my view of relationships. I learned to set boundaries and value my own needs and wants. Most importantly, I began to build real self-esteem separate from external validation. Slowly but surely, things started to improve. I joined some meetup groups to practice socializing in low-pressure settings. I made my first real friend in years, a kind woman named Allie who never pushed me to share more than I was comfortable with. At work, I got better at navigating office politics and collaborating with others. My boss noted my improved performance and gave me my first raise. It wasn't much, but it felt like a huge victory. Dating was still challenging, but I was making progress there too. I went on a few dates with a guy who was wonderfully patient with my awkwardness. Things fizzled out romantically, but we remained friends. Another big step for me. About 2 years after cutting contact with my parents, I felt ready to try reaching out again, not to reconcile, but to get closure. I wrote them a long email explaining how their controlling behavior had hurt me and outlining the boundaries I needed going forward. Their response was sadly predictable. They refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing and insisted everything they've done was out of love. They said I was being over-dramatic and needed to get over my issues. It hurt, but I realized I no longer needed their approval. I had built a life for myself, not the one they'd envisioned, but one that made me happy. I had a job I enjoyed, a small but solid group of friends, and a growing sense of self-worth. Today, at 25, I'm still working on myself. I have my struggles and lonely moments, but I'm proud of how far I've come. I'm learning to trust my own judgment and form genuine connections with others. My parents' attempt to control every aspect of my life ultimately backfired. Yes, it left me isolated for a time, but it also forced me to find my own path and discover who I really am outside of their expectations. I still have a long way to go, but for the first time, I'm excited about my future. It may not be the life my parents wanted for me, but it's authentically mine, and that's worth more than all their approval ever was. Looking back, I can see now how my parents' controlling behavior stemmed from their own fears and insecurities. They were so terrified of me failing or getting hurt that they tried to micromanage every aspect of my life. But in doing so, they stunted my growth and left me ill-equipped to handle the real world. I remember one incident from high school that really illustrates their mindset. I had been invited to a classmate's Sweet 16 party, a rare social opportunity that I was thrilled about. But when I told my parents, they immediately started finding reasons I couldn't go. "We don't know this girl's family," my mom fretted. "What if something happens? They could be drugs or alcohol," my dad added. "We can't risk you being around that." I tried to reassure them. "It's just a birthday party," I said. "There will be adult supervision. Can I go, please? Everyone else is going." But they wouldn't budge. My mom even called the birthday girl's parents to interrogate them about the party plans. Unsurprisingly, after that awkward call, my invitation was rescinded. I was mortified and angry. "Why did you have to do that?" I cried. "Now everyone will think I'm a freak with crazy parents." My dad's response summed up their whole philosophy. "We don't care what other people think. Our job is to protect you, even if you hate us for it." At the time, I believed them when they said it was all out of love. Now I can see how dysfunctional and damaging that mindset was. They weren't protecting me. They were crippling my ability to navigate normal social situations. That's why learning to socialize as an adult has been such a challenge for me. I missed out on so many formative experiences that most people take for granted. Things like having sleepovers, going to school dances, or just hanging out at the mall with friends. All the way teens typically learn to interact. Instead, my social skills were stunted at a child's level. When I first started trying to make friends as an adult, I came across as clingy and socially inept. I didn't know how to engage in casual conversations or pick up on social cues. My therapist helped me understand that social skills are just that, skills that can be learned and improved with practice. She encouraged me to start small with low-pressure social situations where I could work on basics like making small talk and reading body language. Of course, not all my social interactions have been improving smoothly. I've had plenty of awkward moments and missteps, but I'm learning to be gentler with myself when I mess up. Each awkward conversation or social faux pas is a chance to learn and improve. My job has been another area of growth. When I first started working after dropping out of law school, I was completely lost. I had no idea how to interact with coworkers or handle workplace dynamics. I remember being baffled the first time a coworker casually asked about my weekend plans. I froze up, unsure how to respond. Should I lie and make up something impressive? Tell the truth? I had no plans. I ended up mumbling something vague and rushing away. My boss at the time picked up on my struggles. He called me into his office one day for what I feared would be a firing. Instead, he offered some kind advice. "You're a hard worker," he said, "but you seem really uncomfortable around the team. Is everything okay?" His genuine concern broke through my defenses. I found myself opening up about my background and how overwhelmed I felt navigating workplace norms. He was incredibly understanding. He started giving me more specific feedback and guidance on workplace etiquette. He even assigned me a mentor who'd been in the company since forever to help show me the ropes. She was a godsend. She patiently explained things like how to make small talk in the break room, when it was appropriate to speak up in meetings, and how to handle conflicts with coworkers professionally. With her help, I slowly got more comfortable at work. I started joining in on team lunches and happy hours, pushing myself to socialize even when it felt awkward. Gradually, my coworkers got to know the real me, not just the anxious, closed-off person I'd been at first. Now, 3 years into my job, I actually look forward to going to work most days. I've formed genuine friendships with several coworkers. Last month, I even got promoted to team lead, something I never would have thought possible when I first started. My growing confidence at work was spilled over into other areas of my life too. I'm more willing to try new things and put myself out there socially. Last year, I even joined a community theater group, something my parents would have never allowed. Our first production was terrifying but exhilarating. Standing on stage on opening night, I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment I'd never experienced before. For once, I wasn't worrying about living up to someone else's expectations. I was just proud of myself for facing my fears and trying something new. That's not to say everything is perfect now. I still have moments of self-doubt and loneliness. The holidays are especially hard, seeing everyone else celebrate with their families while I'm on my own. Last Christmas, I had a particularly rough day, scrolling through social media and seeing all the happy family photos hit me hard. I found myself wondering if I'd make a mistake cutting ties with my parents. Maybe if I tried harder to meet their expectations, I wouldn't be alone now. In my darker moments, I pulled up my mom's number, my finger hovering over the call button. But then I took a deep breath and remembered how far I've come. I thought about the genuine friendships I built, the career I'm proud of, the hobbies I've discovered that bring me joy. Instead of calling my parents, I texted a few new friends. We ended up having an impromptu Christmas movie night, complete with takeout Chinese food and ugly sweaters. It wasn't a traditional family Christmas, but it was filled with laughter and genuine connection. That night reminded me that family isn't just about blood relations. It's about the people who support and accept you for who you are. I may not have the family I was born into, but I'm slowly building a chosen family of friends who truly care about me. As I approach my 26th birthday, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about the future. I know I still have a lot of healing and growth ahead of me. There are still days when the weight of my past feels overwhelming, but I'm proud of how far I've come. I'm learning to trust my own judgment and stand up for my needs. I'm building genuine connections and allowing myself to be vulnerable with others. Most importantly, I'm discovering who I am outside of my parents' expectations. My life may not look anything like what my parents envisioned for me. I'm not a high-powered lawyer with a picture-perfect family, but I'm happier and more fulfilled than I ever was trying to live up to their impossible standards. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time, I'm excited to find out. I'm no longer letting fear hold me back from pursuing my dreams and building meaningful relationships. It's been a long, difficult journey to get to this point, but I finally feel like I'm living life on my own terms, and that's worth more than all my parents' approval ever was. Here are my thoughts about this story. Before I actually get fully into it, though, I gotta say, reading this story really hit me in the feels. It's not often you come across something so raw and honest about family dynamics and the struggle for independence. First off, mad respect to the author for sharing their experience. It takes guts to put everything out there like that, especially when it comes to family issues. I found myself getting angry on their behalf as I read about how controlling their parents were. I mean, picking out clothes for a teenager, forbidding sleepovers, that's some next-level helicopter parenting right there. What really struck me was how the author didn't even realize how abnormal their upbringing was until college. It's crazy how our childhood experiences shape our views of what's normal. I bet a lot of viewers can relate to that moment of realization when you step out into the world and actually see your family dynamics in a whole new light. The way the poster described their struggle to fit in socially and professionally after breaking free from their parents' control was heartbreaking, but also super relatable. I think we've all had these moments of feeling like everyone else got some secret guidebook to being an adult that we somehow missed out on, but most of us didn't have to overcome years of isolation and micromanagement to get there. I found myself rooting for the author as they describe slowly building their own life and identity. Those small victories, like making their first real friend or getting a promotion at work, had me wanting to cheer out loud. It just goes to show that it's never too late to start over and create the life you want for yourself. The part about reaching out to their parents for closure really got to me. It takes a lot of strength to try and set boundaries with toxic family members, especially when you know they're unlikely to change. The ability to recognize that they no longer needed their parents' approval was a huge moment of growth. I think what I appreciate most about this story is how honest the author is about their ongoing struggles. They don't pretend that everything is perfect now or that they've got it all figured out. The holidays being tough, the moments of self-doubt, that's also real and relatable. This story is a powerful reminder that family isn't just about blood relations. Sometimes the healthiest thing we can do is to create boundaries with toxic family members and build our own support network of friends who accept us for who we are. I also think it's a wake-up call for any parents watching. It's natural to want to protect your kids, but there's a fine line between guidance and control. This story shows too much control can backfire spectacularly, leaving kids ill-equipped for the real world. And to the author, if you're out there watching, thank you for sharing your story. Your courage in breaking free and building your own life is truly inspiring. I hope you're proud of how far you've come, and I wish you all the best as you continue to grow and thrive on your own terms.
Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.